The galaxy called it Peace Day. Every year, bright ships drifted above shining worlds. Music poured from floating cities. Alien leaders wore gold robes and spoke about unity, order, and safety. They told the same story again and again. War is over. Chaos is gone. The strong now protect the weak. The crowd cheered. On giant screens, happy planets filled the sky-green oceans, clean streets, tall towers made of glass and light. The Alliance looked perfect, but in the corner of the screen, there was always a small label in cold text, Warf Quartz, Inestral Asses Toil Half, Human Labor Zone. Most citizens did not even notice it. Earth was not a place to visit. Earth was not a culture to respect. Earth was a tool, a quiet machine that produced work, metal, and bodies. To the galaxy, humans were a footnote. 100 years ago, the Alliance had solved the human problem. No long speeches, no respect, no warning. Alien fleets arrived like a storm that did not care who it hit. In the first hour, Earth's satellites died. In the second hour, every major defense system went dark. Missiles launched and vanished in space like sparks thrown into the ocean. Human pilots tried to fight, but the enemy ships moved too fast and too cold. They did not dodge like living creatures. They corrected like machines. Their shields did not flicker. Their guns did not miss. By morning, Earth's skies were full of shadows. By night, governments were broken. Some leaders tried to beg. Some tried to bargain. Some tried to bargain. Some tried to threaten. It did not matter. The Alliance did not come for a treaty. They came for ownership. In the old human records, the invasion was called the Quiet Fall because there was no final heroic scene, no great last stand that the galaxy would remember. Earth did not burn in one bright explosion. Earth was taken like a farm is taken, slow, efficient, permanent. The Alliance did not wipe humans out. That was the cruel part. They kept them. They chained them. A century passed. On many worlds, humans woke before the sun and slept after it. They worked under alien eyes. They walked with metal collars that tracked their breath. They ate tasteless packs in dark rooms. They learned to keep their faces blank. Humans mined deadly planets where the air cut lungs like glass. They dug deep into red rock and black ice. They carried heavy ore until their arms shook. If someone fell, an overseer would point a shock stick, and the body would be dragged away. Humans built alien cities on rich worlds. They raised towers too tall to understand. They poured steel and shaped crystal. They worked in silence while alien families watched from safe balconies. Some aliens called it civilization. Humans called it the cage with better lights. Humans fought alien wars. Not for Earth, not for freedom, for someone else's borderline. Humans were pushed into harsh battles first because their lives were cheap. Human squads entered smoke and fire while alien officers stayed behind shields, and human children were born in chains. That was how the Alliance won for real. Not by killing the old humans, by shaping the new ones. A human child learned words like quota and obedience before learning the names of stars. Some children never saw Earth's oceans. Some never saw a forest. They only knew metal floors, gray walls, and the sound of locks. In the Alliance records, humans became a simple idea: quiet, obedient, broken. Alien schools taught the human story as a lesson. Humans were aggressive, teachers said. Humans were unstable. We brought them order. Alien news channels showed humans working and called it harmony. A famous Alliance leader once laughed on live broadcast and said, "They lost their spirit." His audience laughed with him. He was right about one thing: humans did not scream. They did not revolt in the open. They did not throw themselves into suicide attacks. They did not act like the brave story the galaxy expected. That was why the galaxy believed the humans were finished. But the galaxy missed the small details, the tiny things that did not show on screens. On a mining moon, a tired human father traced letters in dust on a wall where cameras could not see. His child watched closely. The letters were old, Earth letters, forbidden letters. On a shipyard station, a human woman hummed a broken song while she welded metal plates. The song sounded like nothing to alien ears, but to humans nearby, it was a message, a memory, a promise. On a prison transport, a group of humans whispered names. Not names of kings, not names of heroes, Names of places: Karachi, Lahore, New York, Cairo, New York, Cairo, Tokyo, Rio. They spoke them softly, as if speaking too loud would make the places die. Even in the worst camps, humans still told stories. Not loudly, not proudly, in pieces. Short sentences passed from mouth to mouth. We were free once. We built our own world. We fought each other, but we were ours. We will be ours again. The overseers never understood why humans counted time. They thought it was pointless. They thought humans were marking days for nothing. But humans counted anyway. They counted by scratches on hidden metal. They counted by secret marks under beds. They counted by the rhythm of supply ships. They counted by the age lines on a child's face. One human worker would ask another very softly, "How long?" And the other would answer without looking up, 89 years, 92, 97, as if the number itself was a weapon, as if reaching the end of it mattered more than food. Because humans were not counting years to survive. They were counting years to bezive. They were counting years to begin. In the 100th year, on a dull industrial planet, a human boy dropped a tool on purpose. The clang echoed across the workyard. An overseer turned his head in anger. "Still have you all?" He simply looked at the sky, at the ships, the towers, the flags of the Alliance, and he smiled once, very small. The overseer felt something strange, not fear, not yet, something worse, confusion, because there was no reason for a slave to smile, not after 100 years. Far away, deep inside the Alliance network, a quiet signal moved through hidden paths. It did not carry a speech. It did not carry a threat. It carried only a simple truth. A sentence that had waited a century to be said. For 100 years, humanity did not resist. They prepared. For 100 years, the alien alliance ruled without fear. They believed fear was no longer needed. Across the galaxy, human labor systems ran smoothly. Mining quotas were met. Cities rose faster than ever. Supply lines never failed. Human workers followed schedules with perfect accuracy. To the Alliance, this proved one thing. Humans were finally under control. Alien leaders held meetings inside bright halls of glass and light. Holograms showed rising productivity charts. Human labor output increased every year. One council member said proudly, "Humanity has adapted." Another replied, laughing, "Or they have forgotten who they were." The council agreed. Humans were no longer a threat. They were a resource. Because of this belief, the Alliance made a quiet decision, one that would later be called the Great Error. They began trusting humans. At first, it was small. Human technicians were allowed to repair internal systems. Human engineers were placed near energy cores. Human pilots were assigned to cargo ships that moved between stars. The Alliance believed no slave would ever dare sabotage the system that fed them. They did not understand humans. Humans did not sabotage. They memorized. A human engineer repairing a reactor noticed a pattern in the shield cycle. He said nothing. He fixed the system perfectly. But in his mind, he counted the seconds. A human pilot flew the same trade route every week. She never questioned orders, but she memorized every star, every jump point, every delay. A human medic treated alien soldiers wounded in border wars. He learned where their armor was weakest. He learned how their blood worked. He learned how pain changed their thinking. None of this looked dangerous. Aliens only saw quiet workers doing their jobs. What they did not see was that humans were no longer thinking like slaves. They were thinking like survivors. Across many worlds, humans began doing something strange. They stopped trying to escape. In the early years, humans had tried to run. Those humans died. The Alliance remembered that and believed it had broken human hope. But hope had not died. It had changed shape. Now humans stayed. They stayed close to machines, close to ships, close to systems that mattered. On a factory world, an alien overseer noticed something unusual. Human workers were fixing machines faster than before, too fast. When asked why, a human answered simply, "We learned." The overseer accepted this answer. Learning was useful. He did not ask what they learned. In truth, humans had started teaching each other quietly, not rebellion, knowledge. Old human teachers became system instructors. Old soldiers became logistics planners. Old mechanics became silent leaders. They never met in large groups. They never used names. They never wrote plans. They passed understanding through work, a hand signal here, a pause there, a tool left in the wrong place on purpose. Human children watched everything. They watched how adults touched machines gently like living things. They watched how adults looked at the sky, not with fear, but calculation. They watched how adults never reacted when beaten, but always remembered who did it. The Alliance mistook this calm for defeat. Alien media praised human obedience. A famous broadcast said, "Humans are proof that any species can be corrected." Crowds applauded. But deep inside the Alliance archives, an old report was buried. It had been written shortly after Earth fell. The report warned, humans do not fight like other species. They adapt faster than expected. They learn under pressure. They remember losses. The report was marked low priority. No one read it. Years passed. The Alliance grew busy with other threats. Border wars, trade disputes, power struggles between alien races. Humans became background noise. On one world, humans were allowed to manage water systems. On another, humans controlled internal ship maintenance. On a third, humans were placed in charge of communications routing. All small roles. All critical roles. A young alien officer once asked his commander, "Is it wise to give humans this access?" The commander laughed. "They build our cities," he said. "If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it already." That sentence would be remembered later. On a distant mining planet, a human woman reached the end of her work shift. She looked at the sky as a supply ship jumped into orbit. She counted silently. 99 years. On a transport station, a human man adjusted a power relay. He paused for half a second longer than needed. 99 years. On Earth itself, now stripped and hollow old human ruins stood beneath alien towers. Beneath those towers, deep underground, human communities still existed. They were watched, controlled, limited, but not erased. Human elders told children one simple rule: do your work well. Watch everything. Wait. The children asked, "Wait for what?" The elders answered, "You will know." In the final months of the 100th year, something changed. Not in machines, in humans. They stopped looking tired. Overseers noticed it first. Humans still bowed, still worked, still obeyed. But their eyes were different, focused, steady, like hunters waiting for a signal. An alien logistics AI detected a strange pattern. Human workers across different worlds were syncing schedules without permission. Small adjustments, perfect timing. The AI flagged it, then dismissed it. Humans were efficient. That was all. The galaxy slept comfortably. It believed the chains were permanent. It believed obedience meant surrender. It believed obedience meant surrender. It believed humans had accepted their place. It did not understand one simple truth. Humans were never meant to live in chains. They were meant to learn how to break them. And somewhere deep inside the Alliance network, a quiet system woke up. Not loudly, not yet. Just enough to whisper through hidden paths. A signal was coming. And when it arrived, the galaxy would finally understand. The humans were never broken. They were waiting. The signal appeared without warning. No explosion, no alarm, no dramatic sound. Just a quiet line of data moving through systems that had not been touched by humans for 100 years. On the outer edge of the Alliance, a lonely sensor station orbited a dead star. The station was old, forgotten, used only to watch empty space. An alien officer named Kral was on duty. He was bored. His screen showed nothing but cold stars and drifting rocks. He had served for 40 cycles and never seen anything unusual. Then one small indicator blinked. Kral leaned closer. It was a transmission. Not alien. Not known. Old. Very old. The signal came from no clear location. It bounced between systems, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. The code was crude, inefficient, and strangely familiar. Kral frowned. "No one uses this format anymore," he muttered. He ran a translation scan. The system paused, then froze, then restarted itself. Kral felt a small chill move through his spine. Finally, the translation appeared. One word. Human. Now, Kral stared at the screen. "That's impossible," he said aloud. Earth had been silent for a century. Human networks had been erased. Their communications reduced to local labor channels, tightly controlled. There was no way a human signal could move through Alliance space. Kral reported it to command. The response came back quickly. Ignore. Per bubble data echo. Relieved, Krobel leaned back. But the signal did not stop. It spread. Across mining worlds, factory stations, cargo routes, and slave camps, hidden receivers woke up. Not devices. People. Human workers paused mid-motion. A miner froze with his hand on a drill. A pilot held her breath in a cockpit. A child stopped walking in a corridor. They did not look surprised. They did not speak. They simply knew. The word passed through them like electricity. Now, on an industrial planet, an alien overseer shouted at a human worker who had stopped moving. "Get back to work." The human looked at him calmly, then returned to work. The overseer grumbled and turned away. He did not see the human's hand tremble, not with fear, but with control. Across the galaxy, humans began doing something strange. They did not attack. They did not run. They did not scream. They stopped at the same moment, then continued as if nothing happened, but something had changed. Behind the scenes, systems started failing. Small failures. Unimportant ones. A door took 2 seconds longer to open. A shield flickered for a heartbeat. A navigation marker shifted slightly off course. Alliance technicians blamed aging hardware. They replaced parts. The problems returned. On a fleet carrier, an alien commander noticed supply drones arriving late. "Human error," he said. Punishments followed. Humans accepted them silently, but the delays continued. In a shipyard, an energy core shut down for maintenance without request. In a city, security cameras blinked off for exactly 1 second. In a military base, targeting systems recalibrated themselves. All across the Alliance, control slipped by tiny amounts. Too small to cause panic. Too perfect to be random. The Alliance did not see the pattern. Humans did. The signal had not said attack. It had not said rise. It had not said fight. It said only one thing, now. And humans understood what that meant. Now meant memory became action. Now meant lessons became use. Now meant waiting was over. In a deep space logistics hub, a human technician adjusted a power relay. The adjustment was correct, safe, approved, but it opened a path. In a medical station, a human nurse updated a database. She followed every rule, but she changed one value. In a cargo fleet, a human pilot entered coordinates that were slightly inefficient, but the inefficiency stacked like falling dominoes. Alien AIs noticed the changes. They calculated. They recalculated. They found nothing illegal. Everything was within allowed limits. The humans had learned the rules too well. On a council world, an alien analyst grew uneasy. He reviewed reports. Minor disruptions, minor delays, minor errors, all involving human-managed systems. He raised a concern. "Humans are interacting with too many core systems," he said. A senior council member waved it away. "They are tools," she replied, "and tools do not rebel." The analyst said nothing more, but he watched. On Earth, deep below the surface, old human tunnels stretched like veins. They were hidden, forgotten, sealed by layers of metal and law. Inside them, humans gathered quietly. No speeches, no banners, no chants. Just eyes meeting eyes. One human elder spoke softly. "Is everyone ready?" Heads nodded. Another asked, "Any fear?" No one answered. Fear had been used up a long time ago. A young human asked, "Will they understand what is happening?" The elder shook his head. "No," he said, "and that is why we will succeed." Back in space, Crawl, the sensor officer, detected the signal again. Stronger now. Still one word. Still human. Now. His station lights flickered. The air felt heavy. Crawl's instinct screamed at him to run. Instead, he sent another report. This time, command did not answer. The signal spread into military networks, into defense grids, into fleet coordination systems. Not as a virus, as permission. Systems began accepting commands they should not. Alliance commanders shouted orders. Ships did not respond. Weapons powered down. Shields dropped. Not fully, but enough. Confusion spread. What is happening? Who authorized this? Find the source. No source could be found. Because there was no single source. There were millions. At the same moment, across countless worlds, humans stopped pretending. They straightened their backs. They looked overseers in the eye. They spoke words they had not spoken in 100 years. No, the galaxy felt it before it understood it. A shift, a pressure. Like the moment before a storm breaks, the Alliance had believed the chains were strong, They never realized the chains were connected, and now every chain was pulling at once. The signal ended as quietly as it began. No farewell, no explanation, just silence. But the silence was different now. It was not submission. It was expectation. Because the galaxy was about to learn a truth it should have learned long ago. The most dangerous thing a slave can do is wait. The galaxy did not fall apart in one moment. It slipped. Slowly, quietly, perfectly. Alliance commanders shouted orders across fleets that no longer listened. Control rooms filled with flashing lights and confused officers. Systems answered later not at all. At first they thought it was a system-wide malfunction. Then, the reports began to overlap. Mining worlds stopped exporting ore. Shipyards froze mid-construction. Military fleets lost coordination. And in every report, one detail repeated. Human-operated systems were involved. On a fortress station above a blue giant star, an alien general slammed his claws into a console. "Shut them down," he ordered. "Remove humans from all key positions." The order spread, but it came too late. Humans did not resist removal. They smiled. On a factory world, guards marched into a control room to remove human technicians. The humans stepped aside calmly. The guards touched the consoles. Nothing responded. Power rerouted itself. Doors sealed. Security locks changed. The guards were trapped. The humans walked away. Across the galaxy, chains were breaking, but not the way the Alliance expected. On a mining planet, human laborers stopped working at the same second. Overseers raised weapons. Before they could fire, the ground shook. Controlled charges placed years ago during routine excavation detonated beneath command towers. The blasts were precise, clean. The towers collapsed inward. Human camps remained untouched. On a fleet carrier, human maintenance crews sealed bulkheads while alien officers argued. Life support stayed on for humans. Alien commanders pounded on doors that would not open. A human voice came over the speakers. Calm. Clear. You are safe. Remain still. The aliens felt fear for the first time. Not because they were dying. Because they were no longer in control. Human uprisings did not look like rebellions. They looked like operations. Old mining ships, undocked from stations and formed tight formations. Their armor was rough. Their weapons were mismatched. But they moved like veterans. Human pilots flew without hesitation. They did not dodge wildly. They did not rush. They flew with patience, as if every movement had been practiced for years. Because it had. On one border world, an alien battalion prepared to crush a human camp. Before they arrived, the ground beneath their transports softened. Human engineers had altered soil stabilizers months ago. The transport sank. Weapons jammed. Human fighters emerged. Not screaming, not celebrating. They disarmed the aliens quickly, efficiently. They left the soldiers alive. One alien officer shouted, shaking, "Why don't you kill us?" A human commander answered, "We are not you." Across Alliance space, something worse than destruction spread. Understanding. Captured alien officers began to realize the truth. Humans had not rebelled early because early rebellion would fail. Humans had not attacked blindly because blind rage wastes lives. They had waited until every system leaned on them, until the galaxy depended on human hands to function. One captured admiral was brought before a human council aboard a reclaimed station. His voice trembled. "How long have you planned this?" A human woman looked at him. "Since the first chain closed," she said. The admiral swallowed. "You could have done this years ago." She shook her head. "No," she replied. "You were not ready. Human forces moved through the galaxy like a tide, not fast, inevitable. They cut communication between Alliance leaders. They disabled fleets without destroying them. They isolated command worlds one by one. Everywhere they went, they did the same thing. They freed slaves. Not only humans, other species forgotten, broken, ignored, were unlocked from cages and camps. Some cried, some ran, some knelt in disbelief. Humans offered them water, food, and a choice. "You can leave," humans said, "or you can help." Many chose to help. That frightened the Alliance more than human ships. Because now humans were not alone. On the Alliance capital world, panic finally arrived. Councils argued. Generals blamed technicians. A senior ruler shouted, "They are slaves. How is this possible?" An old advisor answered quietly. They were never slaves. We just chained them. Emergency messages were sent. Threats, warnings, promises of mercy. Humans ignored them. Then the Alliance tried force. A massive fleet jumped toward Earth, now a symbol, not a target. The fleet never arrived. Human-controlled navigation beacons redirected them into empty space. Engines shut down mid-jump. The fleet vanished. Not destroyed. Lost. The galaxy watched in horror. For the first time in history, the Alliance did not know what to do. Human commanders gathered across liberated systems. No grand throne. No crown. Just shared purpose. One question remained. What now? The answer came from an old human one who had been born in chains. We finish it, he said. But not the way they expect. Human fleets advanced toward the galactic core. Not to conquer, to end the system that allowed chains to exist. The galaxy began to understand. This was not revenge, this was correction. And correction is far more dangerous. Because it does not stop when anger fades. It stops only when the problem is gone. As human ships crossed into the heart of Alliance space, alien worlds went silent. Not from destruction, from fear. Because everyone now knew the truth. The chains that once held humanity had become the weapons that would reshape the galaxy. The Alliance had never begged before, not once in its long history. For centuries, other species had begged it for mercy, for peace, for survival. The Alliance listened only when it was useful. Power had always answered questions for them. Now, power was slipping away. Human fleets did not rush the galactic core. They moved slowly, system by system, cutting control without destroying worlds. Each step was careful. Each move was final. Alliance command worlds went dark, not from explosions, but from silence. No orders arrived. No fleets answered. No systems obeyed. Alien leaders gathered in emergency halls that suddenly felt too large and too empty. The air was thick with fear. They are coming, one ruler whispered. Another shouted, offer them peace. Messages were sent across every open channel, to human commanders, to liberated systems, to anyone who might listen. The offers were generous. We recognize your suffering. We admit mistakes. We will pay reparations. We will return Earth. Some messages even used human words like freedom and justice. Humans listened. They recorded everything. Then they responded, not with threats, with memory. Across the galaxy, human-controlled networks activated. Every screen on rich worlds, poor worlds, and former slave worlds lit up at the same time. Images appeared, not edited, not dramatic, not exaggerated, real. Human children wearing shock collars. Human workers collapsing in mines. Human cities stripped and hollowed. Human soldiers sent first into alien wars and left behind. No music played. No narrator spoke. The silence did all the work. Alien citizens watched in shock. Many had never seen this. They had been told humans were cared for, corrected, improved. They had been lied to. Then human voices spoke, not shouting, not angry, calm, measured. A human representative appeared on screen. His face was lined. His eyes were steady. For 100 years, he said, you took our labor, our worlds, our children, and our future. He paused. You are asking for peace. Another pause. Peace is not words, he said. Peace is structure. The Alliance offered surrender, full surrender. They proposed a treaty that would place humans among the ruling powers. They offered seats, titles, and authority. Humans refused. We will not rule you, the humans said, because ruling created this. This answer confused the galaxy. If humans did not want power, what did they want? The answer came next. Human fleets entered the core systems, not firing, not conquering. They took control of one thing only, the chains. Every law that allowed slavery was removed. Every system that ranked species by value was shut down. Every council built on ownership was dissolved. Alien leaders were removed from power, not killed, not tortured. They were placed in the same conditions humans once lived under, monitored, restricted, silent. Some cried out, "This is cruelty," one former ruler shouted. A human guard answered simply, "No, this is memory." Across liberated worlds, humans did something unexpected. They left. They did not occupy cities. They did not claim palaces. They did not demand tribute. They helped rebuild local systems, then stepped back. This frightened the galaxy more than conquest ever could, because conquest had rules. This did not. Former slave species gathered around humans. You saved us, they said. Lead us. Humans answered, stand on your own. That is the point. An alien historian recorded events in real time. His hand shook as he wrote. This is not revenge, he noted. This is correction without pride. The alliance finally collapsed, not with fire, with understanding. Its citizens saw the truth. Its systems failed. Its authority dissolved. What remained was fear of what humans could have done, but chose not to. On Earth, the chains were removed, slowly, carefully. Humans stepped onto open ground and looked at skies that were theirs again. Many cried, some knelt, some said nothing at all. Earth was damaged, scarred, changed, but alive. A human child born in chains asked an elder, "Are we safe now?" The elder looked at the stars. "Yes," he said, "but safety is not the lesson." "What is?" the child asked. The elder answered, "That freedom must never depend on mercy." In the final meeting between humans and the last Alliance Council, one alien asked the question everyone feared. "Why didn't you destroy us?" The human representative looked at him for a long moment. "Because," he said, "we want the galaxy to remember why we won." The Alliance era ended that day. No empire replaced it. No human throne rose. Instead, a new rule spread, spoken softly, but obeyed everywhere. No species would ever own another again, because if they did, humanity would remember. And humanity had proven something the galaxy would never forget. Chains do not make humans weak. They teach them exactly where to strike. Oh, the galaxy did not return to how it once was. It became something new. Where the Alliance banners once hung, there was empty space. Where slave markets once operated, there were open halls. Where species had once bowed, they now stood straight. The age of chains was over, and humanity was the reason. But humans did not stay. That was what confused the galaxy the most. After the collapse of the Alliance, many expected humans to rise as rulers. They expected fleets to remain in orbit. They expected laws written in human language, enforced by human guns. None of that happened. Human fleets withdrew from the core system. Human soldiers returned to Earth and other rebuilt human worlds. Human commanders resigned their authority once systems were stable. They left behind tools, knowledge, and warnings, not orders. Alien leaders gathered in new councils, careful councils, built slowly, with fear still fresh in their memories. Every decision was debated, every law questioned. One rule was written first, carved into stone and data alike. No species may own another. Ever. Everyone agreed, because everyone remembered what happened when that rule was broken. Across the galaxy, stories spread. Parents told children about the humans, not as monsters, not as gods, but as something worse. Survivors. Teachers explained the human century. How did they defeat the Alliance? Students asked. The answer was always the same. They endured. Humanity did not win because it was the strongest species. There were races larger, faster, and more advanced. Humanity did not win because of superior weapons. Most of their weapons were built from scrap and stolen systems. Humanity won because it remembered who it was while living as something it was not. On Earth, rebuilding was slow. The planet was damaged. Oceans were polluted. Cities were scarred by alien industry. Some places could never be restored. Humans rebuilt anyway, not into what Earth had been, into what it needed to become. Former slaves worked together, not because they were forced, but because they chose to. Human children learned freely now. They learned history, but not hatred. They were taught the truth. We were enslaved, teachers said. But we were enslaved, teachers said. But we were not erased. Some children asked hard questions. Why didn't we destroy them? Why didn't we take everything? The answers were not simple. An old human, once a miner on a death world, spoke to a group of young listeners. If we had ruled through fear, he said, we would have taught the galaxy nothing. What did we teach them instead? A child asked. The old man smiled. That freedom is dangerous, he said, and that is why it matters. Far from Earth, on a quiet alien world, an old Alliance officer lived under watch. He was not tortured. He was not punished. He was allowed to live. That was the punishment. He spent his days writing reports no one requested. In one report, he wrote a sentence that historians would later quote often: "We believe chains break spirit. We did not understand. They build memory." Across the galaxy, human warnings became law. When a small empire tried to force labor from a weaker neighbor, nearby systems reacted immediately. Trade stopped. Fleets moved. Pressure was applied. No one waited to see what would happen. They remembered. Human ships did not need to appear anymore. The idea of them was enough. Humanity became something strange in galactic culture. Not rulers, not enforcers. A reminder. Some species feared humans. Some respected them. Some admired them. But no one underestimated them again. Because the galaxy had learned something terrifying, humans do not rush to war. They prepare. Decades after the uprising, a young alien historian visited Earth. He walked through open cities, quiet forests, and old ruins left untouched. He asked a human guide one final question: "How did you survive 100 years in chains without breaking?" The human thought for a long time. Then, he answered, "Because we never believed the chains were the end of the story." The historian recorded that answer. He added his own note beneath it: "Humanity treats time as a weapon." On the anniversary of the uprising, humans did not celebrate with parades or victory speeches. There were no grand monuments. Instead, humans gathered quietly. They removed one old chain each year from a memorial hall and placed it into the earth, not to forget it, but to make sure it never returned. A human child, standing beside a parent, asked softly, "Will it ever happen again?" The parent looked at the stars. "Someone will try," they said. "Someone always does." "And then what?" the child asked. The parent answered calmly, "Then humanity will remind them." The galaxy moved forward. Trade grew. Cultures mixed. Species learned from each other. Fear never fully vanished, but it became a guide instead of a weapon. And in every corner of space, from witch core worlds to distant frontier systems, the same warning existed in different languages, carved into walls, written into law, whispered in fear: never chain humanity. Never mistake silence for weakness. Never forget the century they endured. Because the galaxy had learned the hardest lesson of all: humanity does not need to rule the stars. They only need to remember who they are. And when they do, the stars remember them too.